Hey everybody, welcome back. We've got a little 2-for-1 demo here. We are going to be doing mainly focusing on cloud functions to show you how they can work, but we're going to do them a little bit differently than probably a lot of the code labs and quick labs that you're going to see. This one's going to be a triggered cloud function, and it's going to be triggered by activity in our cloud storage buckets. Now, cloud storage bucket, if you don't remember, that's where we're just going to be placing our files into buckets. We'll create buckets to hold stuff specific to whatever service we want. Again, cloud function is going to be a serverless function that you call, so you don't need that infrastructure. All you're really doing is creating a function that's going to receive a request and spit out some data. And what we want to do here is basically get notified via, and we're just going to do it in the log to kind of follow along with the little demo that I have for you, that something has changed in a cloud storage bucket. Kind of a nifty little demo. I will have the link in the description for this particular example. It's a pretty straightforward cloud function. It's going to be written in Python. And what we're going to do is basically just kind of copy and paste the code that they have in here. And we're going to deploy the cloud function through the cloud shell. So we don't have to do anything with the console in the cloud functions page. We're just going to straight up use the cloud shell here. So the first thing we're going to do, and I'm going to walk you through this whole thing here, is that we're going to create a bucket particular to this project. Now, let's realize it's probably not very visible for you. So we're going to create a bucket. So I'm in my storage buckets, and I'm going to call this CIS680 CF demo. I'll delete this after it's done as well, because otherwise this name is not going to be available. And I'm going to hide my cost estimator for now. So click continue. Actually, let me get rid of my cloud shell so you can see the whole thing. Continue. Where do we want to store our data? This depends on your needs. I'm just going to pick region because I don't need high availability. This is, again, a small demo. US East, closest to me. Sounds good. Standard storage class, I don't need anything fancy for this demo, so we're going to click continue. I'm going to select uniform access to my bucket. Basically, I don't have any specific permissions, needs that I need to specify. So anything in this bucket will have the exact same security policy. And by doing it this way, I'm also going to tie it to basically my accounts, my service accounts, things of that nature. And if you want more detail, they have learn more if you, again, you want to do more fine-grained things. So continue. The Google managed encryption key is fine as well. When we get to the security set of slides, or I guess blog post in this environment, we'll talk about Google versus customer keys and all that fun stuff. No retention policy needed. Not going to label it for later lookup, so we're just going to go ahead and click create. So my bucket is now created. So it's CIS680 CF demo. Now I have a bucket. Okay, so I have nothing in here. And now we can't actually see the list of, oh, it'd be right here. Nothing in here. This is where I'd put my files if I want my various services to access them later on. But what I want is a cloud function. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this code. Now what this is doing is it is a cloud function. So we have a single function. Again, this is Python, where the only thing that it's doing is printing information. Okay, so it's just printing. And by just printing, what does that mean for us as a cloud function? It's printing it to the standard output, which for you and I is the log in our cloud functions page. I could do other stuff with this. I could send it as an email. I could package it up as a Slack message, whatever I need to do. But for here, logging is good enough. If you wanted to be like notified if something happened, you could tie this to say, send me an email or an alert or something that's going to really grab my attention rather than just a log. But again, nothing too crazy here, just printing. And what are we doing? We're printing out context and event information, which are getting passed in by basically being tied to this cloud storage bucket. And that will be specified when we go ahead and deploy it as well. So first things first, let's get our cloud shell up and running. I'm just going to open it up in here since it doesn't really matter which window I open it in. Make dir cf demio. Oh, we got to fix that. Got this newish keyboard. I'm not used to it yet. So we're going to go into CD. We're going to go into this folder. Now, I'm going to edit a file, call it main.py, call it whatever I want, really. And I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste this in. And again, this is just basic code. Nothing too crazy here. Although that's kind of what you want with the cloud function anyway, right? You want it to be fairly minimal in terms of what it's doing. So again, just printing out information. All right, that's my cloud function. All that's left is to deploy it. How do we deploy it? Again, I don't have any cloud functions here yet because I haven't created one. To deploy, we're going to use the gcloud functions call. So gcloud, our standard command. Functions means interact with gcloud, or sorry, cloud functions. So we want gcloud functions deploy. And then we want the name of the function that we're creating. So hello GCS is going to be the specific function that's being triggered. And we called it the same thing. So hello GCS. Is it an underline or a dash? Underline. Should have known that. Our runtime is Python 3.8. Python 3.8. Let me do this too. Backslash. Oops. Okay. Cut all that nonsense out. Gcloud functions. Okay, so what we're going to go ahead and do now is actually deploy our function. So gcloud functions deploy hello underscore GCS. That's our function name that we are deploying. Again, that's in main.py. We have to specify our runtime. So in this case, it is Python 3.8, so Python 3.8. We also need the trigger resource. So the trigger resource is the name of our cloud storage bucket. And we called that CIS655 demo. So basically we are tying this cloud function to this bucket. And what are we tying it with? A trigger event. It is google.storage.object.finalize. Now you have options for these trigger events. And if you check out this page, you can see what is available, like if an object's deleted, if it's been archived, if some metadata has been updated. You have more options than this, but basically you can, anything that happens in, say, a storage bucket, you can trigger a cloud function based on that. So let's set our trigger event, and that's our deployment. Gcloud functions deploy, function name, which runtime. Again, we could use any of the available runtimes, Python 3.9, Python 2.7, if that's still supported at the time that you're watching this. Node, Go, whatever cloud function language you want. And again, that will change over time depending on what Google supports. Name of our bucket, event that it's going to be triggered upon. So I'm going to hit enter. This will take a few minutes to deploy. So it says may take up to 2 minutes. But basically you're going through the cloud build process to build the function, deploy it, make it live, and then we'll see it in a few moments. So we'll be right back. And we are back. Okay, so the deployment went through a little bit speedier than it did when I did this demo off camera, about probably a minute or so. And you see information that deployment was successful, so no issues with getting the cloud function up and running. If I go over to my cloud functions page, I will see that this function now exists eventually. So hello GCS. We even see its trigger. We see a little bit more information that you can set with cloud functions, like you can set the memory, the allotted runtime, authentication, things of that nature. Here we basically have, nothing too crazy. Couple of things to keep an eye on. So if I want to trigger this, it's going to fail, and we expect it to fail, right? Because there is nothing that this function is doing other than reporting information on a bucket. So I'm going to hang out in Cloud Functions here, right? So we're going to check the logs. Shouldn't really see anything. If I want to go ahead and test it, I should see an internal service error, right? There is nothing that this function knows how to do with a trigger that is empty. And you would see the same thing if you go to test it, kind of like you would a standard cloud function. Like if you try to visit a web page with it, you will get a internal service error. Basically, just it doesn't know how to function. So let's shell. Let's upload a file. So I've just got a little test script here. It's not important what it is, just a random Python script lying around on my system. We see it is now uploaded. I have a file in a bucket that is now accessible, assuming that I've set the proper IAM parameters. But now, hey, let's pop over here to our logs, and I see about a little bit ago, oh, this is the old one, sorry. It's also looking at the old information. Here we go, here's the new one. So our function is right here. So we are looking for event ID ending with updated. We see event ID, event type, bucket, file, generation, created, updated. This is all that information that we set with our little logging calls. Now, again, just printing out to the log, but this happened pretty much immediately after I uploaded something. Again, take that for what you will, change it to an alert, change it to some kind of event that triggers or that notifies you later on, and you have yourself a handy little cloud function. Anyway, I will see you next time. Hope this was useful. Bye, everybody.